Mazzacane podcast. It is 4 p.m. on October 11th. We didn't come live yesterday because of the holiday, but we'll be back live this week with all three Republican candidates for office in our state offices. So tomorrow is Paul Christie, who's running for the 12th Senate District. There's like 8-9 towns in that. And on Friday is the Republican candidate for the for Sean Scanlon's former seat. We'll have him on DiNardo on Thursday. But to start this off, we have, I'm going to bring Ray on.
Hey, Steve.
Ray, welcome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This gets us going on the first political interview of the season. So it's always fun to get me going back again and talking politics and having everybody on. You are running, Ray, for the 102nd district that is currently held by Robin Comey. She is running for re-election as well. So we will talk about the job she's done, what we propose to bring to the seat, and a little bit of your background locally as well. But first of all, let's start with you giving us a little bit of your background. Now, I'm going to start interviews with you and Robin the same way. I know you both well. And so you're a personal friend of mine. I've known Robin for a very long time. So if people have comments, if they want to ask questions, they're welcome to. They can put that in the comment section as well. I'm going to ask both fair questions about issues. Let them answer. This is not about me. This is about them. So if to negate any favoritism questions or comments, if there are issues or comments you want to make it, please do it in the comments. And if it's an appropriate question, I will bring that up. That said, Ray, I'll give you a minute or two. Talk about you. What's your background? What brings you to this race?
Sure. Yeah, I figured I was first. That way I wouldn't hear anything that came up earlier. Somebody had to do it first. But yeah, I'm Ray Ingraham. I'm my background. I'm a New Haven brought up kid. Grew up all over New Haven. 6 of us in the family. 4 sisters and a brother. Our parents, divorced when I was about 11 years old. So we lived with both parents as single parents for many years with each one of them individually. Learned a lot from that. I bring a lot of that to my to how I do things and how I think about things. We brothers and sisters had to take care of each other for many things, and that permeated into how we react in our adult life. With that, not having much money and moving on, I joined the Air Force so I would have a decent job and a decent career. That essentially I do the same job I did when I joined the Air Force at 17. Got married to Mary Jane Crowley about a year later and had our first daughter a year after that. So a good 19 years old with a kid, a career, and a wife, and moving on. So that's it's interesting times for my 7.5 years in the Air Force. Learned many skills, learned many the computer systems. I think that the Air Force taught me how to multitask because my first duty station, we had 13 different computer systems that we had to know equally as well. They were all tactical, going out in the field, and had to work between them interchangingly, and every day and night, because we were the center that developed all the coding for to making sure they all worked together. Then after that, we moved back. We moved back to Connecticut, settled here in Branford, settled on Linden Avenue with my mother and father-in-law, who had just remodeled their family house that the families had since the late 1800s. They lived with us in our 2-bedroom apartment with 2 daughters, and we figured out that we could live together at least for a while. So we did that down Linden Avenue for 7 years till we saved up to buy our house on Indian Neck Avenue. Because at that point, it was my mother and father-in-law didn't want us to go, but we had told them that we needed to make sure that the kids had a place to run away to, when they started heading into their teenage years. And during that time, I started taking up young women's sports, softball, basketball, field hockey, softball for 22 years, coach and ran the program here in Branford. And then my daughter, Christina, my oldest daughter, and I started the permanent field hockey program at the intermediate school. And basketball, we just coached together. Uh, coached each we Christina and I coached her younger sisters, through the programs while she was in high school, and that got me what I'd say is ready for politics. Dealing with parents, dealing with people every day. Different personalities, different reasons why people wanted something to go a certain way, and having to negotiate with them with that to make sure the program moved on, and that the kids got the best out of the whole deal. And that was very fulfilling, and that goes into politics. The same type of negotiating and working with people. So now I've been on the RTM for coming up on 12 years, majority leader coming up on 10 years. So it continues with the negotiating and working with even within our own team, my own caucus on the RTM, making sure that voices are heard. People don't always get everything they would like, but we need to know that the best thing for Brantford's coming out, and that's a main focus in all of my decisions. Is, what's the best for my district, and then what's best for Brantford as a whole. And that brings me to today, where I want to move on to the state level, where I can bring more to Brantford. Bring more of a focus, a Brantford focus to the job. Working with Jamie Cosgrove over these years, we've had a lot of plans moved, and we've moved them really well along. I'd like to bring that same mentality to Hartford. It's really a nonpartisan uh, policy. It's making sure that what we're doing is right, and it's right for Brantford first, and we can sort out and negotiate for the rest of the state.
Okay, so you've had I have said this before, not just about you, but the last 10 years have been unprecedented growth in Brantford when it comes to getting infrastructure done. You've been a role in that. The
Hmm.
question is, very likely the Democrats will still control the House. So how effective will you be as a likely minority member of the House in getting those things done at a state level if you were to take that seat? And what sets you apart when you're going to be likely you're the majority leader now under
Yeah.
House? What happens when you're part of the minority in Hartford?
But when I have to be part of the team, or part of the and the part of the team to me, again, to me is what's going to bring what's best for Brantford. It won't always be just what the party wants or needs or wants to head down a path. I haven't been that way, even in the leadership within the party here in Brantford. You need to you need to speak up. That's what I learned from my current members that I corral as the majority leader. You need to always be speaking up. You don't have to be noisy. You don't have to be mean. But you do need to always speak up and make sure that that voice is there. And the more it's said, the more it permeates what others are thinking. And if you're not pushing to be partisan or only being one way, and you're shown to give and get, you get things done.
All right, so let's talk about what's likely going to be the talking point for Democrats after Roe v. Wade. So we'll get this first question out of the way because every Republican knows it's coming. Talk about abortion. Now, it's some of those rights were diminished in the Supreme Court ruling in Connecticut. It is the rule. However, it is not a constitutional amendment. What is your stance on abortion and
Um,
going
you,
forward?
you
Go
know,
ahead.
there's no one I've ever heard of that enjoys abortion, or thinks that it's the greatest thing for any woman or any family would have to go through. For me, I am as labeled pro-choice. I am not for changing any of the laws in Connecticut in any way. It's I'm a father of three daughters, brother of four sisters, two granddaughters, coached hundreds of young ladies. Um, there's no reason for us to step in and change anything that's going on in the state. The law is settled, um, and it needs to stay that way. Women's health is important. Being able to control their own health and bodies is extremely important.
So, would you be on board if a movement took place to make it a constitutional amendment in the state?
To
In
change
the
the law
state.
to constitutional, I would be fine with that.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about some issues that are particular to Brantford. There's an issue I know you know well, and we've dealt with the Parkside issue in Indian Neck for quite some time. So, talk to me about affordable housing. What do you feel could be happening from a state level on affordable housing, and how has it affected Brantford so far?
Well, with affordable housing, um, the state needs to start taking a more, I guess, pinpointed, precise um, attack toward it, rather than this blanket across the board. What every town should have to do. What it does. One size does not fit all with the affordable housing. And in a town like Brantford, we're stuck in the middle. We, socially, economically, we've got the whole myriad of from homeless to people that own $21 million islands. We've got mobile home parks. We have mother-in-law apartments. The state needs to, kind of jumping ahead. The state counts. They put a blanket 10% that each town city has to adhere to, or every time a project comes up, the Planning and Zoning Commission has to figure out whether they have to enforce the 10%. Do they have to act? Are they asking for it? And that what that leads into is that towns like Brantford end up with predatory developers that threaten affordable housing, so that a large number, so that the planning and zoning will approve a smaller project with maybe less of it, to be able to get some of the numbers that they need toward that 10%. We've talked over and over. I know you've been at meetings where Brantford has got the highest concentration of mobile home parks in the state, yet they don't count. Any mother-in-law apartment, those small apartments that are inside of a house, or even a three-family house that's not deeded as affordable, doesn't count. But we all know that those rents aren't as high, and that people that are making those median incomes are affording them. And Brantford should get the credit, and any town like Brantford should get that credit.
That's something you would fight for?
Absolutely. It might be something that I'd want to draft up from November 9th to whenever I get sworn in.
Now, the question on business friendliness in Connecticut isn't new. We've asked it every single debate I've moderated since I started, 10, 12 years ago. From a business perspective, what steps would you take to make business more either affordable or easy to get through here in the state?
Well, businesses, constantly, whether it's a state level or even at the town level, complain about red tape. The hoops they have to go through, how many times they have to go through the hoop because it wasn't explained in a way that they could ingest it and take it and take action on it. And if they're not experts, or they don't go and hire a law firm, a battery of lawyers that know how to do it for them, you hear that there's hiccups, there's stops, there's delays in projects, and they get a bad taste in their mouth about that part. Then numbers of fees and that we'd have to look at, but I don't have specifics on it, exactly what fees should come out of the way. But the hurdles that people go through and the number of hoops need to be reduced, or at least explained in a way that that they can, a regular builder, guy doing a job down the street can just walk through. And then the climate, that Connecticut's welcoming. I know that the numbers of taxes that are on businesses, and the focus, during especially election season, is not to worry about anybody that has a little bit more money, is to to try to make proposals for cuts that are in smaller realms. It's we have a big responsibility that balancing things in the state. balancing how we take our surpluses, paying off our debt, much like we did in Brantford. That makes it appealing to come, where it's not going to cost as much down the road.
Okay, so are there any particular laws or from a business standpoint that you would like to see undone or changed, or tax rates you'd like to see changed?
Yeah, for businesses directly, I really don't have a specific one right off the top of my head. We do have taxes that go on our cars and trucks. Some of them do pass through the state, but as they're passing through the state, they the amount that it costs a company to deliver here does go onto our food bill, and it does go onto our gas bill, and we can see that when we go from state to state, the effect of that milk might be $1 cheaper in Delaware than it is here because of the fees and costs around it. But it's more of a myriad than a single cut that would make a huge difference.
So you're running for a seat it's not an open seat. Robin
Yep.
Comey has held a seat for a couple of terms now. Talk to me about the job she's done. What do you think she's done well? What do you think she needs to work on?
I think Robin has done well with early childhood education. It's her wheelhouse. She's done it for many years, and it's really her expertise. And I have to give her plenty of credit to there. People that I've sent to her have reported back that she's been able to help, especially during COVID times, with her wherewithal, being able to call up state agencies as a state rep. A lot of that comes with the badge of having the job that you're able to refer people and have someone respond at the state level. It's too bad we have to do that sometimes, but that's just the nature of the beast, even sometimes in town stuff. The things that I've heard out on the road, and what makes me different, where is the focus on infrastructure in Brantford, focus on reaching out to people for all their voices. Some think that they haven't been heard unless they're in that education realm. To me, I think I'm much more rounded in the that arena of listening, bringing forth items that I have no real knowledge of, and learning, sitting on the green with some people talking about biodiversity. I'm not any big expert in that. I'm really good with working with people and coming to a consensus on items. But so it was interesting to have the conversation and understand how important it was to the people that I was talking to, and then trying to fit it into the grander scheme of things. And what I think is that I would always be bringing Brantford's voice first in every decision.
Okay, is there a project that you worked on in town that you're most proud of, or something that shows that you really worked both sides to make happen?
What have we worked? I think we've on our town budget, we've really worked with both sides, and we've had within our realm of when things weren't as political, a couple of years ago, we had a unanimous vote of the budget, and I've always reached out to the minority, the other leaders, on really every level of if they were willing to listen, to talk to them about what decisions were coming up and where I thought my team was heading, or and work out what was happening. I think that rapport helped me with some it didn't work out so well, and when it didn't work out with the leader, I made sure I reached out to the rank and file within their teams, made sure that they had all the information that was able to get to them without without a stopper between.
Okay, so let's talk about just some issues that are facing the state, that are facing the country, but also the state. And the number one issue is healthcare. Healthcare costs are rising exponentially, and we in the state have one or two major healthcare companies basically buying up, um, for example, Yale buying up a bunch of smaller doctors' offices, and that may be impacting the cost of healthcare. Is there some regulations that you would propose or would support on that consolidation of healthcare services?
On the consolidation, nobody wants a monopoly, and even if a monopoly was in the in the thoughts of being in the good realm, always appears to not be. You don't think you're getting the best pricing. You don't think you're getting the and often you may not be. I mean, I've witnessed it with for a while. They're paying for my own healthcare insurance, and then having to pay much higher deductibles. Looking at each bill and looking at what the consumer had a few years ago, where there was more choices. The list of places I could call for, let's say, a colonoscopy, um, and look at that and say, oh, look, I can go to a place in Guilford for $1,400, and if I go to Yale inside the hospital, it's $2,800, and if I want to drive out farther eastern Connecticut to Middlesex, it's $800. You have those you had those choices. It's very, very worrisome that if two conglomerates, or two large companies, were controlling that and controlling the pricing. I know that healthcare insurance companies are sometimes better known as cost reduction, healthcare cost reduction. Push to normalize the pricing. Unfortunately, that most of that normalization of pricing means that what appears to be cuts in services to people that bought the insurance. So tightening up laws to make sure that that can't happen would be very important. And then I'm not exactly sure how you would go at not allowing a monopoly to happen within the actual healthcare provider. So,
Okay. What about Tweed? Now, if you run for office, you don't live in Short Beach, but Short Beach is impacted.
yeah.
And I think overall people support the expansion of Tweed, but there are a group,
Mhm.
some small, that is quite vocal in its opposition of Tweed. Uh, where do you stand on it? And do you see it as a positive or negative for the neighborhood?
In the grand scheme, I think it's a positive for the area. I mean, Tweed is it's been it's been a hoped cornerstone for many years. He used to live over there, Woodward Avenue. Um, I've listened to many more people that have been very positive, especially about the number of flights that are going in and out of there and how fast they can get there, and that they can go visit relatives or go visit. They're not having this, think about selling their Connecticut house now, that they're able to travel back and forth quickly to Florida, or down to especially Myrtle Beach and that. But I do understand. I've sat on a few porches during this run in different areas, and listening to the planes. Down even down on Linden Avenue, or, we've heard them up in the 6th District, up in the hills, near North Branford. The planes end up being a little bit closer because they're coming in over there. And then Short Beach, the same thing. That the noise is there. And like I said, I lived by an airport before. I lived by the train tracks, closer to the train tracks here. So I hear the things, but they do become background noise. I do understand, the people in East Havens, worry about, the development of the terminal and what might be of traffic. And, when we deal with that with, every project and, that comes to town, that, what's the true traffic? What, how is it going to affect, how you live? So I understand those things. I mean, some of the things being, brought out or said and with petitions and such, or spreading at, as I've met up with a couple of people that were against on the green, were worrisome, and what people are being told of the project. So I think that if I was giving advice to the people running the project to get more information out of exactly what's happening as timely as they can, that can allay some fears. And if you don't want jet noise, I mean, we live by an airport. It's been there for a very long time. We used to have more prop noise than actual jets, but prop noise, but that's those size planes is just about as noisy because they can come in lower. So so I guess I would say I'm happy with the improvements there, and happy that people are able to get to where they need to be going. Hopefully, it would also help with our business folks, getting people in as the economy and Connecticut's economy takes off, so that we can get visitors here, to our industry.
So give me three things. List for me three things that people will get that they may not be getting now if you're elected for the state rep seat.
Sure. Well, for one, very much focused on parental notification. Families being first on notifications of healthcare and education items. Number two would be local control of our planning and zoning, and zoning rules, where it doesn't always affect everyone across town. It's very important that we keep our home rule with planning and zoning. And then what's been very important to the people I've seen at doors is making Connecticut as affordable as possible. We all know that it's not going to be overnight. We all know that we need to head in a direction that our middle and lower income people can get on without struggling too much. I mean, it we need to be able to help there, and most people are feeling the affordability right now with the with inflation. And I'm not totally sure how we fix within the state level how we fix inflation, but we can help with levels, some taxation levels, putting our surpluses toward our debt, so that we can release some future costs.
And there, I mean, in some ways, when it comes to inflation, would you extend the gas tax?
I would well extend the moratorium, yes, and I would also apply it to diesel, and help out on that end also.
The first thing you mentioned was parents, or maybe the second thing you mentioned was parents being notified. Talk
Mhm.
about that in a little more detail. What
Sure.
are you addressing there?
Well, parents parents have noticed, and or at least feeling that there's less and less control coming out of for them, coming out of school systems and healthcare choices, that that they're not being notified, or people that they don't think are qualified to tell their kids about sexual matters, um, things like even family matters of abortion, and that shouldn't be coming directly from uh, you know teachers and administrators at school levels, or even just a healthcare clinic down the street, that they should be at least notified that the conversation's been happening. And it should. I do draw a line on what I'll call a kid. um, that I throw it at 16 years old, that anyone that's 16 and up does need some freer control of their lives. But under that, parents need to have notification. And I do know that there are parents out there that probably shouldn't be parents, and make sure that we devise ways that those kids can be helped, where you can I wouldn't say short circuit, but circumvent the I guess it's the same bad term, but to allow a kid to get help, that if the school system decided that there'd be something like the counseling center here in Branford would step in also, so that there's a couple things going on before it something that overrides a parent's say.
Okay, so I just want to, so I'm hearing you correctly. It's you want parents to have more notification when certain topics are being discussed or taught in
Yeah.
schools.
Well, between that and also parents should be able to opt out of things, especially in school. If there's something that they don't want their child taught in a class at school, they should be able to opt out. I mean, we can get into the bigger discussion of, whether there should be, school choice and coupons or being able to go wherever you want to be taught. If we're not going to allow people to have a school choice, that we're going to use our current system the way we are, then the parents should be able to opt out of certain things that they're going to teach their kids themselves.
Okay, but that does bring up a couple very interesting questions when it comes to, we just had Guilford and CRT. We can have
Mhm.
questions about science versus creation taught, what you can opt out of versus the science, of something. So um, we're coming to an end of an interview now, but it might be interesting to give a little more detail on, what you would accept. I certainly understand when it's sex education, sometimes parents want to wait a little bit longer. But you made a point yourself. There's some
Yeah.
families that none of this is happening. So it does
Oh,
fall on the school system to teach some of these things.
absolutely. It's there still has to be some kind of venue that the kids that are going to need it, that don't, that you hate to identify people, but like I talked about with the zoning things, or we don't, you can't fix everything with a blanket approach. We need to make sure that the people that need to be taken care of can be taken care of, and the rest, their parents are doing their job. Let them do it.
All right, then to sum this up for today, give me your final speech to people. And we're asking for a change here. As someone who's in the office, you feel you're a better candidate. Tell me why people should vote for a change for that state rep seat.
Well, as the next representative for Brantford, I will put Brantford first in every decision made. I reach out, I'm known for reaching out. I've always reached out to my constituents. Anyone can ask anyone in Indian Neck area, whether I put out polls, whether I put out questions on social media, I email them on important issues to make sure that, my decision is not my decision. I'm coming in there with several thousand people's voices on my back. That's what I bring. So my only um, special interest influencers are the people of Brantford.
Okay. Well, Ray, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. If we have more questions, are you open to come on later on close to the election?
Anytime.
All right, I appreciate it. All right, thank you very much. I'll sign you off here. Thanks for joining
Very
us.
good. Good day.
Okay, so that was Ray. I mean, most people know Ray. He's kind of a fixture here in Brantford. He has spent the last 10 years as a majority leader, so he's had a significant part in getting major town projects done under the Cosgrove administration. The senior center was a big one because there were objections from the other side on that. That one, you have to give him credit for getting through. A lot of other things like the animal shelter, things that we see now, he played a significant role in. That said, he's also the head of the local Republican Party. And so there are some questions that we can ask and hopefully did ask on where do you stand. I think we're getting a lot of the same answer from Republicans on abortion. They're not going to change anything. He said he would be for a constitutional amendment. So that's an interesting stance there. And the question is, if you're not for any changes, then you can be for the constitutional amendment. There's no reason to fight that. So it's an interesting discussion with him. What we're going to do next week is talk to Robin. She'll get to defend her record and talk about, certainly Ray was right, and I respect the candidate that commend another candidate where her work on early childhood education is exceptional. That's her thing. That's what she's always run on. That's what she's good at. And her career was in that. Well, part of her career was in that realm too. So we'll talk to her about that. We'll talk to her about some of the things Ray might brought up about communication, ability to work with both sides. When we talk to her, and then some of the things that she's proud of and running on for office as well. Now, tomorrow is Paul Chrissy. Paul Chrissy, I have not had, unlike Ray, I have never had a significant conversation with him. So we'll ask him a little more details on his stances on things either locally and also impacting the entire district, because he's going to be representing from East Haven up to Durham and Madison. And so very different demographics in those towns. That should be an interesting interview. He's a charismatic guy. Should be a very interesting interview. And we will also have the incumbent, Christine Cohen, on next week. So the 3 days, today, tomorrow, and Thursday, we have candidates. And then next week, we have 3 of those days, we have candidates. If there's a need after that, we have a week that we can bring them back and have conversation with them as well as we lead into the election. All right, for the time being, we'll go. That'll be our podcast for today. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Again, Paul Chrissy will be our guest, and we look forward to